Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, no matter where you are. I am so pleased to have you join me today. Unfortunately, Dina Redinger is not with us, but I'm thrilled that you've taken the time from your busy post Christmas day to join us this morning. So, hi, and a warm welcome to Think Differently by Design, the listening tour with your hosts, Dina and Sharon, but today, Sharon, author of the book Think Differently. We invite you to engage us with your peers as we address issues related to nurses and nursing, especially those in leadership positions. When we study women in leadership positions, we have found that success happens when we ask the right questions and solve the right problems. Our respective healthcare careers and writing careers make us uniquely qualified for this role as facilitators. So we invite you today to be a part of our program by participating in today's 30-minute discussion or joining us as the interviewee. Our programs will continue on Tuesdays and Thursdays through mid-February, and our goal is to provide nurse leaders with an opportunity to be heard, to express their opinions, to share ideas, and to tell their stories. But first, we want to acknowledge you from all across the globe. Please write in the chat, tell us where you're from. We'd love to welcome you personally to the show, and be sure to ask questions. I promise you we'll respond. I am super excited about today's guest. Today, we welcome Dr. Anne-Marie T. Brooks, a global nurse leader, consultant, and magnet appraiser. Anne-Marie is an award-winning leader, former association president, former dean, author, speaker, and an incredible resource for all things related to nurses and nursing, especially nursing leadership. Anne-Marie, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sharon. It's an honor to be here.
I'm so glad you're with us. So let's start out with something that is critically important. You know, nursing education has gone through tremendous change as a result of COVID. There are nurses on the units today who have never had a true clinical experience with a real patient other than in an immersion lab. They've just not done it. What changes would you like to see or would you recommend for nursing education today?
And it is true. Thank you, Sharon. And it is true that nursing students were not able to be face-to-face with patients during their nursing education career. I think we've gotten much better at that issue during the pandemic and now going forward. But what I'd like to see in nursing education is that self-care and well-being being addressed in the curriculum early. And so nursing students not only are taking care of themselves, but understand the importance of what self-care means to every person they encounter. Because if we leave self-care and well-being until they become professional nurses, it will never take hold, and they won't be able to take care of themselves during their career.
That's really interesting. And of course, it's interesting to me that you mentioned that because you know I'm such an advocate of self-care and work-life balance. What I think is really critical here is that you're exactly right. Nurses don't think about it until they get on the unit and they say, what's next? What now? And then people start to talk about the whole concept of take care of yourself, put on your own mask first, those sorts of things. But we never really roll it into the curriculum. So we graduate professionals who really don't have the full picture of what's about to happen to them or how their lives will change.
And nursing school and education is stressful in itself. So how can we help mitigate that level of stress through learning about oneself? And Sharon, you are the expert, and you have always been focused on self-care as not selfish. But this is beyond this is beyond just themselves. If
Right.
they want to be successful in healthcare for themselves, for their patients, for their families, they really have to understand the concept.
But I learned the lesson the hard way. I had to work 100 hours a week, 3 countries a week, until I realized that there was no balance in my life. I don't want that for today's young nurses. I don't want them to come into the profession and leave 6 months later thinking, gosh, this is just not for me. I made a really poor choice. I don't want that to happen to them. What can we do to keep that from happening?
Well, I want to go back to schools and colleges of nursing just for a moment. That means not only will nursing students have to learn, but we have to do a lot with leaders and faculty. Because
Okay.
I'm going to say that when I talk to faculty, and I know faculty and I know deans, there are not enough advocates for changing curricula and making sure there are policies and procedures that are customer friendly and would promote that.
Do you think that aspiring students who are looking for a career in nursing look for a curriculum that is more perhaps broad, that would include those components, or do they not even think about it until they get there?
I don't think they think about it, and I don't think our messaging from the profession itself mentions the importance of the whole person and really absolutely becoming a professional nurse. But as a professional nurse, your purpose and your vision and your mission really need the engaged, highly motivated, and healthy person.
Okay, so let's say that the nurse has already graduated. Now she's a new graduate, they're onboarding. Okay.
Yes.
What would you shift the new graduate onboarding to ease that process, to facilitate the process for them?
Again, some of it is the same content and focus on self-care, but I think new graduates need much more time to learn about themselves, situation awareness. And my impression from talking to lots of new graduates through the Magnet program, they oftentimes do not feel connected. Some don't feel connected because they're immediately put on nights and feel as if they're not part of the organization or see their leaders. But I really think it's the connection and the engagement with the purpose of nursing. And I love that many new residents, many new graduates are understanding safety. They're understanding a lot of things, evidence-based practice, they're applying it. But the importance of feeling connected and seeing that they're really contributing as they learn to become a professional is so incredibly important, not only to their retention, but to their engagement as a professional.
So a question from Netta in Utah, what can we do to facilitate change?
Well, in the professional practice arena, we have to have nurse leaders and hospital and system leaders that understand the importance of the nurse as a resource. So nurse leaders need to advocate not only for resources, but for policies and procedures that create healthy environments, that care about well-being, that are interested in listening to nurses and making sure that nurses have a voice in decision making. But that facilitating of change comes from leaders and is supported by nurses.
So Anne-Marie, you've done a lot of Magnet surveys over the past several years, and you've spent a lot of time with nurse leaders. We know that.
Yes.
You're well recognized in the field. People really love to work with you and collaborate with you. I certainly do. It's been 30 years that we've been collaborating.
Yes.
Big celebration. I want to know, do you believe when you speak with nurse leaders that they understand this concept, that they're aware of what needs to be done on their part?
I think that I have always been blessed to have friends and colleagues that understand and work every day 24/7 to really bring about change, to sustain change. On the other hand, I know there are many organizations where nurse leaders are not supported in the kinds of change they want to bring about. And I have to tell you, I think as colleagues for each other, nurse leaders need to help other nurse leaders with strategies and advocacy, and make sure that we're always putting the patient first, but making sure that we have environments, work environments that are healthy and can help people do their best every day.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question totally off the record. Well, it's on the record because everyone's hearing it.
Yes.
I am appalled sometimes when I look at a website of a healthcare organization or system, and I don't see nursing listed as a service, nor do I see anything related to nursing when it comes to our administration or our team.
Sharon, I have to tell you, I would be, and I might not go to enough websites, because the websites that I usually go to are the magnet hospitals. And so they have nurses.
They recognize, yes, of course.
Yes, they do. But Sharon, that is a sad commentary when people come to hospitals for nursing, for medical care, but for nursing care, and they're not prominently displaying and making visible the importance of the connection with the people that are going to take care of you. That is very disappointing.
And to me as well.
And I will take that idea back to AONL to say to them, this is not how we should be moving forward, especially when nurses are the most trusted professionals and have been for the last 19 or 20 years.
20 years.
You would think on the website, they would prominently display that mantra of come to our hospital, come to our system, because we have the most trusted professionals.
Exactly. And so you mentioned that people go to the hospital for medical care, but they really don't go to the hospital for medical care. They go to the hospital for health care. And at the core and at the heart of healthcare is the one they're going to see the most. And who is that professional? The nurse, right? The nurse is the one they'll see most often. So it's the nurse who's responsible for delivering the care. How do we put that health back into healthcare and include nursing in the big picture?
Well, we're not going to, you and I are not going to do it today, but having these kinds of conversations with each other. So I would hope any listener on our discussion today will talk not only to each other, but to their leaders, to their colleagues and other institutions, and ask the same question. How do we make more prominent nursing within healthcare for the right reasons?
Right. It's not that we're trying to self-promote in any way. You and I are nurses. For us, it was a calling. It was something that we knew that we needed to do. And we've enjoyed wonderful, wonderful, enriched nursing careers. I use my nursing platform for everything that I do, and I know you do the same. I just wish that the general public truly understood, and I think they do understand, because they're the ones who basically are saying, you know, this whole concept of listen to the nurses, listen to the nurses. This is what it's all about. This is an amazing experience. So I think that they understand, but they recognize the Gallup poll, they recognize all of the recognition. I think now people know when they go to a magnet hospital what magnet really means.
And I would suggest that for listeners that are not at a magnet hospital, go on magnet hospital websites, because when you walk into a magnet hospital, and it's been my experience of many visits, that they prominently display the magnet designation right in the front lobby, and they oftentimes have things. So steal ideas, whether you're a magnet hospital or not. There are wonderful ideas that you could use to enrich what you have.
Exactly. And to promote nurses and nursing.
I agree.
I love when I go into hospitals and they celebrate Nurses Week, and each unit has its own display of what it is they're all about, and how they basically focus on the patient and put the patient first. I think that that's so invigorating. It reminds me of the times that we had in Eastern Europe when we asked the nurses with a whiteboard or a poster board, please draw a picture of what nurses do in your country. And you and I were shocked at what basically some of those nurses were doing. There were things that we never could have imagined that people would be doing, you know, in this century, in this time. But I think that we've seen the growth of nurses and nursing as professions all across the world. And to see it falter in any way at home is often painful to me.
But I think you're also bringing up something that's so important. One piece is leaders, nurse leaders, hospital leaders, and each other really do need to use recognition of each other every day. We usually do it beautifully during National Nurses Week, but that connection of you did a good job, writing somebody up when there's a special effort, but really connecting with people. That's part of the self-care agenda, making a difference and acknowledging great contributions.
And we have a message from our colleague in Yerevan. Thank you, Alina, for tuning in.
Tell people where she's from.
Alina Kushkian is the dean at a nursing college with which Anne-Marie and I were affiliated in Yerevan, Armenia. She is an outstanding dean, such an incredible professional, the biggest supporter of nurses and nursing. And interestingly, in that part of the world, as we well know, the deans of colleges of nursing are doctors, not nurses. Yet this is a doctor who is a nurse's nurse, if you will. She is absolutely amazing and the greatest supporter of our profession you would ever want to meet. We hope to see you at Sigma Theta Tau next year, Alina.
And has one of the most innovative baccalaureate programs in the world.
Exactly.
All the challenges.
Yep. Renowned. So, Anne-Marie, given that, do you feel optimistic about the future of nurses and nursing?
Sharon, I feel very optimistic. The profile of nursing students that I have met and are meeting and see are going into nursing education with a great purpose and a vision. So I'm feeling very good about who we're recruiting. What I'm not as sure about is when they get there, are the organizations, whether in the community or in acute or in long-term care, are as ready to welcome these well-versed, technologically savvy people into the current model of care.
Wow, that's interesting. And you're right. They are so bright, so innovative, so creative, and so tech savvy, certainly far more than you and I could ever be.
Absolutely.
That it's amazing to think about the resources that they bring to the table. Will they be welcomed? What do you think?
I think they'll be welcomed. I'm not sure their potential will be utilized to the extent possible. Last year or 2 years ago, I was at a hospital where a fairly new graduate had thought up an idea for improvement of patient care. They glommed onto it, and then she was able to apply for a patent. And I'm thinking these technologically savvy nursing students and new graduates, we should utilize their expertise that we do not possess as we help them enter the professional role. Those
Right.
are the kinds of things that I think are so very important.
And I think that we need to recognize that. We need to welcome it. We also need to create opportunities for them to share that knowledge, to
Yes.
share that level of expertise, perhaps direct them to the right resources to promote their idea, to be
And
nurse innovators, and to be welcomed into the profession fully.
and organizations that have innovative programs that allow people to apply for funding for innovation or give them release time. Those are organizations that will keep the interest and move in a direction that will motivate people.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that nurses really need meaningful recognition on steroids, if you will. It needs to be at an entirely new level so that they truly are recognized for the value that they bring to the profession, the knowledge base, and they are quickly going to move from novice to expert. Quickly. There's no question in my mind. I feel very secure in knowing that today's nurses will be those nurses who are going to take care of us someday,
I
and that will be in good hands, don't you?
I agree. The other piece I feel optimistic about is that the new graduates and the younger nurses that I see understand interprofessional practice. And so they don't have a long history of thinking that somebody wants to encroach on nursing. They know they're team players. They understand the respect for each other, and they understand if I help you, you can help me, and we have each other's back. And I feel very positive about that.
So do I, because years ago it was not that way. It was that, oh, look at that, respiratory therapy is taking away something that we were going to do or that we were responsible for. It's not that way anymore. In order to provide quality healthcare and good outcomes, which is what we all want, we need to work as a team. And it is that interprofessional practice that is going to drive us to that outcome.
It really is. And during Magnet site visits, we always have sessions with interperson, and they know the sources. They have read the documents. They can cite examples, and that's ownership. And that is a wonderful thing.
Oh, I think it's fabulous. So what advice, we're starting on a new year. It's been a really wild holiday season for so many people. Thankfully, we have so many nurses who are able to work during the holiday season and continue to provide care the best possible with limited resources. But what advice would you give to nurse leaders as they enter a new year? First to nurse leaders, and then to next generation, middle level, and staff nurses.
Okay. For the nurse leaders, I would say make a resolution not to feel guilty. Relieve yourself of guilt and focus on the principles of self-care and well-being. Because if you remove the guilt, then you're free to really do some creative things. And in decades ago, nurse leaders had to think they had to do everything. And I want to say nurse leaders work with very talented people. And so they should share, delegate, and listen carefully, and not just listen, but listen to what people are telling you and then take action, because that will result in some great outcomes. But if I was a nurse leader, yes, I would feel pressure by staffing shortages and the continued challenges, but they will always be there.
Right.
Nurse leaders, get to know your new employees. Make them feel welcome. So when there's a decision that's not as easy as one would want it to be, they will feel that you and your colleagues are invested in them and have to make those difficult decisions because there's a higher purpose.
Okay. And what about the staff nurse then?
For the staff nurse, I would say reread why you came into nursing. Be vigilant about giving ideas for improvement. Don't connect with people who whine and are negative. If you get stuck in negativity, you'll never be able to use your potential and do your best every day. Bring into the work environment something new. Make sure you're having fun with your colleagues. Tell your patients about let patients know and understand you, and make sure you listen and understand them. Nursing is a privilege and a calling. Remind yourself it really is a privilege to take care of people.
I love that. You are exactly right. It is truly a privilege. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that goal of why we came to nursing in the first place, to revisit it, our calling, to revisit the purpose is actually really, really good advice. I know sometimes I need to remind myself of why it is I do what I'm doing, and wondering if I'm actually going to make a difference or have made a difference in the lives of others. I think that that's all good advice. And I think it's especially good advice to say, surround yourself with positive people who raise you up, who lift you up, who make you feel good about being you and being who you are. Only then can you be your best version of yourself and do your very best work.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's time for a close and an invitation to join us the week following the holidays. Well, actually, you can join us this Thursday as Dina and I share with you why we're doing this tour and what our plans are for 2023. And we welcome you to join us again following the holidays. If you'd like to participate, please reach out to us. Again, we'll be live on the 29th. We'll have more of the listening tour next week. We have great plans to bring great content and great presenters to you. And with that, we wish you a very, very happy, safe, and healthy new year. Celebrate yourselves. Celebrate your reason and your purpose for being in nursing and experience joy. Thank you, Anne Marie, for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve walked behind.